From miracle comebacks to legendary collapses and moments that silenced Augusta itself, in this video, we're counting down the most shocking moments from the Masters, where beauty met chaos and history was rewritten in real time. And first, we start with one of the most heartbreaking meltdowns in Masters history, Rory McIlroy's 2011 breakdown, April 10, 2011. Rory McIlroy, 21 years old, freckled, fearless, stood on Augusta's 10th tee, 4 shots clear. The crown was waiting, the headlines written. The fairy tale was supposed to end in green satin and champagne smiles. But golf, especially this golf, does not honor scripts.
The strike seemed good.
Look at him.
Oh, this is a good-looking shot, too, if the distance is right.
Right over the stick. Is it going to come back?
Here it comes.
It's got a little momentum. It's got a little momentum to it. Look at this. Look at this. How good are you? That's it, though. I mean, you can talk about the conditions being easy or whatever, and of course it's for 2.
His drive on 10 wasn't just offline, it was exiled. The ball hooked so violently it vanished behind the cabins left of the fairway, a part of Augusta so obscure it might as well have been myth. Spectators gasped, commentators froze. Rory stood motionless, a comet suddenly realizing gravity exists. What followed was a slow-motion descent no camera could look away from. Triple bogey at 10, another at 12. By 13, his swing had lost its rhythm. By 15, his face had lost its color. He finished with an 80, not a number, but an obituary for innocence. The boy wonder walked up the 18th with tears glinting under the Georgia sun, his disbelief laid bare for millions. Augusta had seen collapses before, but none so raw, none so visible. This wasn't just failure, it was heartbreak televised in HD. The world didn't mock, it winced. The whispers called it the fall of a prodigy. But time, as always, rewrote the script. By 2025, Rory McIlroy is no longer the fallen prince. He's the forged survivor. He calls that Sunday the Forge, the day that burned away entitlement and left only steel. Sports psychologists cite it as a masterclass in resilience, the rare moment when humiliation becomes transformation. His 2024 memoir, Heartbreak and Halo Flight, revisits the wreckage with surprising serenity, describing the panic, the solitude, the strange peace that followed. That Masters was supposed to be his coronation. Instead, it became his crucifixion. And in that fire, the boy became the man who would chase greatness for the rest of his life. If you thought that was Augusta's cruelest heartbreak, think again, because 5 years later, the course found a new prodigy to devour. Jordan Spieth's Rays Creek catastrophe. The golden boy was untouchable, until Augusta reminded him, nobody's immune. April 10, 2016. Jordan Spieth, the Texan prodigy with the steady eyes and unflappable swing, stood on the brink of back-to-back Masters glory. He had a 5-shot lead with 9 holes to go. The jacket was already fitted in imagination, the headlines pre-written. But then Augusta, in its cruel, poetic timing, decided to intervene.
Opening par. The 22-year-old known for his nerves of steel in the lead, but then the 12th hole. Right into Rays Creek.
It's getting up.
He swings again.
Oh my goodness.
His 3rd shot at redemption.
Unbelievable. I'm losing count, Frank.
And when it was over, a quadruple bogey.
Just not right now in the face. Still.
You can understand why he wanted that camera away. His hands to his face. He watched as 28-year-old Danny Willett from England won.
On the 12th tee, Rays Creek waited, calm, reflective, hungry. Spieth swung once, splash. He regrouped, swung again, splash. His 3rd try met the same watery grave. 3 shots, 3 splashes. The golden boy drowned in slow motion, and millions of viewers watched destiny dissolve. His cap came off and hit the grass in disbelief. Commentators went silent, as if the broadcast itself needed a moment of mourning. When the score was tallied, a quadruple bogey 7, his 5-shot cushion had vanished, and with it, his invincibility. Danny Willett, shocked and apologetic, claimed the green jacket by default. The silence that fell over Augusta that day was heavier than applause. It wasn't scandal, it was heartbreak televised. A 22-year-old prodigy reduced to panic and disbelief, standing by Rays Creek like Hamlet staring into the abyss. By 2025, the collapse has become legend. Spieth himself calls it the fog, the moment his brain disconnected and golf became survival. Sports psychologists cite it as the ultimate case study in pressure's breaking point. Netflix's Full Swing devoted an entire episode, The Unraveling, to his heartbeat data and the eerie quiet that followed that splash. The irony? That nightmare made him human. It stripped the myth and left the man, one who clawed back to win the Open in 2022. But Augusta remembers. The creek still runs clear, still merciless, and every Masters Sunday, when the wind drifts across the 12th, you can almost hear the echoes. Splash, splash, splash. And if 2 collapses weren't enough for you, buckle up. Augusta's archives hold an entire anthology of madness waiting to be replayed. Woods, mize, and chaos combined. Sometimes Augusta saves the craziest for last. Other times, it unleashes them all at once. An anthology of disbelief wrapped in azaleas and tension. Start with Tiger Woods in 2005. The 16th hole, the Sunday red, the chip that time refused to swallow. The ball paused on the lip, 2 full seconds of global silence, before dropping in slow-motion perfection. Nike got a free commercial. Tiger got immortality. Physics got humiliated. Then, in 2013, the same man committed golf heresy. A bad drop on 15, an unintentional rules violation that turned birdie into triple bogey. Augusta's golden child became its courtroom defendant. Flashback to 1987. Larry Mize, the local kid, 140 feet away in a playoff against Seve Ballesteros and Greg Norman. One miraculous chip later, the Masters was his, and 2 legends were left staring into the void. It was Augusta, at its cruelest and most divine. Rewind further. Arnold Palmer, 1960. The king himself defying officials over a ruling on 12, demanding justice for a misjudged second ball. He won the argument, the hole, and the tournament, rewriting the unwritten rule: never argue with Augusta unless you're Arnold. Fast forward again to 1998, when 58-year-old Jack Nicklaus, long past the expected age of magic, shot 68 on Sunday, finishing T6. It wasn't a victory, but it felt like one. A reminder that legends don't fade, they flicker on, stubbornly. And who could forget Hubert Green in 1978, interrupted mid-putt by a live radio call-out, a surreal, cinematic glitch that only Augusta could produce. By 2025, these moments have transcended sport. They're memes, myths, masterclasses in chaos. Because Augusta doesn't just host golf, it hosts drama. The kind that reminds the world, perfection here isn't real, but madness always is. But not every shot comes from legends. Sometimes, it's the almost champions who leave the deepest scars. Scott Hoch's 1989 lip out, 24 inches. That's all that separated Scott Hoch from immortality. It was April 9, 1989. Masters Sunday had stretched into sudden death. Under the dimming Augusta light, Hoch stood over a 2-foot putt that could end it all. Opponent Nick Faldo waited, expression unreadable. 2 feet, 1 stroke, a lifetime condensed into a heartbeat. Hoch drew back the putter. The gallery held its breath. And then, heartbreak.
Back on the tee at the 15.
Got a lot of indecision by Scott Hoch, Brian. Actually has decided to go with the 8-iron.
I think the shot for them is...
The ball rolled, kissed the left edge of the cup, and stopped cold. No spin, no mercy. The collective gasp that followed wasn't noise. It was grief made audible. Hoch didn't move for a full second. His shoulders stiffened, eyes blank, the disbelief of a man who had just felt fate flick him aside. Faldo went on to birdie the next hole and claim the green jacket. For Hoch, that miss was no mere moment, it was a sentence. Overnight, he became golf's patron saint of what if. Sports writers dubbed it the cruelest inch in Augusta history. His near miss entered locker room folklore, invoked whenever pressure and precision met under bright lights. He handled it with grace, at least in public. Years later, Hoch joked, "That putt's still rolling somewhere." But the smile carried weight. Sports psychologists now dissect the miss as an early example of the yips, that invisible tremor of the mind that hijacks the hands. Biomechanics research even modeled the stroke, finding that Hoch's putter face opened by less than 1 degree, enough to doom destiny. In the digital age, the miss lives forever. Every April, it resurfaces on X, formerly Twitter, with captions like "Golf's cruelest inch" or "The lip out that broke a generation." Yet there's something hauntingly poetic about it. Augusta doesn't just reward greatness, it tests how much heartbreak a soul can bear. And in 1989, Scott Hoch learned that sometimes the greatest shocks aren't about failure. They're about how close you can come to heaven before the door shuts in your face. Of course, not all Augusta miracles end in heartbreak. Sometimes they rewrite what's possible, and no one proved that louder than the Golden Bear himself. Jack Nicklaus's impossible charge. It was supposed to be over. Jack Nicklaus, 46 years old, silver-haired, and written off as a relic of golf's golden past, was meant to fade quietly into ceremonial tee shots and polite applause. But on April 13, 1986, the Golden Bear decided retirement could wait. He roared back from obscurity and turned Augusta National into something between a cathedral and a riot.
Right, let's go to the 18th. Has to make birdie, currently on the outside. Looking in.
9 shots behind. The odds? A laughable 100-1. The commentators were talking about young guns, not a man who hadn't won a major in 11 years. And yet, as the Georgia sun dipped lower, something began to shift. The galleries stirred. The roars rolled down the fairways like thunder from another era. At the 15th, Nicklaus sank a birdie that cracked the air open. At 16, he did it again. Calm, clinical, ancient magic in motion. And then came the 17th hole, the 12-foot putt that would become scripture. His son caddy Jackie read the line one way. Jack shook his head, trusted his instincts, and rolled it home. That putt wasn't a stroke. It was destiny exhaling. The gallery's explosion rattled the azaleas, and somewhere deep inside Augusta, even the pimento cheese sandwiches probably trembled. When the dust settled, Nicklaus's scorecard read 65, a masterpiece disguised as a number. He'd won his 6th green jacket, his 18th major, and delivered the single greatest comeback in Masters history. The chant erupted, "Jack is back." No one believed what they'd seen. Not the announcers, not the bookies, not even Jack's peers, who watched from the clubhouse like they were witnessing resurrection on live TV. Decades later, the 1986 Masters still glows like a religious relic. The 40th anniversary broadcast in 2025 turned nostalgia into gospel, replaying that final putt like a sacred loop. Current champions, from Scottie Scheffler to Rory McIlroy, call it the playbook for miracles. Augusta even altered the bunker near 17 in quiet homage to that moment. The geometry of destiny etched into sand. It wasn't supposed to happen, but that's the Masters' secret. It never asks permission before rewriting history. Sometimes it just points to the oldest man in the field and says, "One more time." But for every resurrection, Augusta demands a sacrifice. And in 1996, it was the Sharks' turn to bleed Greg Norman's 1996 collapse. They called him the Shark, fearless, immaculate, sculpted like ambition itself. Greg Norman wasn't just a golfer, he was a brand of dominance, sun-kissed and surgically confident. But on April 14, 1996, that shark bled in public. Augusta's waters, calm and green, turned carnivorous.
And I thought, if I get through 9 holes and I've knocked 2 or 3 off, 3 back with 9 to play did nothing at Augusta.
First hole, Norman bogey, now 5 ahead. 6th hole, Faldo birdie, 4 ahead. 8th hole, Faldo birdie, 3 ahead. 9th hole, Norman bogey, 2 ahead. 10th hole, Norman bogey, 1 ahead.
Norman entered Sunday with a 6-shot lead. In golf, that's not a lead, that's a moat. But moats don't stop ghosts. A bogey at the first hole cracked the surface. Another stumble on the front 9 widened it. Then came the 12th, Rays Creek, again the scene of poetic ruin. 2 shots into the water, a triple bogey, and suddenly the Shark's smile was gone. By the 16th, Norman looked like a man dragged underwater by the weight of his own myth. Nick Faldo didn't so much win that Masters as weight. Patient, precise, surgical. While Norman's scorecard hemorrhaged, Faldo closed quietly, birdie after birdie, like a man painting the final strokes on someone else's masterpiece. The galleries murmured, too stunned to cheer. One spectator told Sports Illustrated, "It was like watching a king lose his crown mid-procession." Norman's final round 78 is now golf's shorthand for implosion. The cameras wouldn't look away. They captured the twitch of disbelief, the downward glance, the hug at the end, Faldo's awkward embrace of a man shattered in slow motion. Norman's handshake was steady, but his eyes were vacant. In that moment, Augusta didn't crown a champion. It baptized humility. By 2025, the story has fossilized into legend and meme alike. Golf's Shakespearean tragedy replayed every April. Now the CEO of LIV Golf, Norman calls it a mental hijack in his memoir, Shark Tales Revisited. Analysts still study the footage, dissecting body language and breathing rhythms like forensic art critics. That Masters taught golf an unspoken truth. Even the fiercest predators can drown in calm water. The shark, once invincible, learned what Augusta teaches all who dare to dominate. The course doesn't bite back, it simply waits. And just when you think you've seen every way to lose the Masters, Augusta flips the script completely. This next heartbreak wasn't written on grass, but on paper. Roberto DeVincenzo's fatal signature. He did everything right, except for the one thing that mattered. April 14, 1968. The roars of Augusta still echoed as Argentine legend Roberto DeVincenzo walked off the 18th green, his face glowing with quiet triumph. He just birdied the 17th, seemingly forcing a playoff with Bob Golby. History was waiting. But then came the cruelest twist in Masters lore, not written in sand or water, but on paper.
1968, a moment in Masters history involving Roberto DeVincenzo and Bob Golby that will never be forgotten. Golby shot a final round 66 and appeared to be tied with DeVincenzo. But Roberto returned an incorrect scorecard. He had made 3 on 17 but signed for a 4, alas allowing Bob Golby to win the 1968 Masters.
As the cheers subsided, DeVincenzo sat down to sign his scorecard, the final ritual of golf's sacred bureaucracy. His playing partner, Tommy Aaron, had mistakenly written a 4 on the 17th instead of the 3 Roberto had earned. A simple pencil slip. DeVincenzo, still basking in the afterglow of victory, didn't double-check. He smiled, signed, and handed in the document that would doom him. Moments later, a tournament official broke the news. His apparent tie with Golby wasn't real. The signed scorecard, incorrect though it was, made his official total 1 shot higher. He had lost the Masters not with a swing, but with a signature. DeVincenzo's face fell, and the line that slipped from his mouth became immortal. "What a stupid I am." The words carried all the grief and disbelief in the world. A man undone by a number. The Augusta gallery, so trained in civility, fell silent. Even Golby looked uneasy, collecting his unchallenged title. There was no roar, no celebration, just the eerie quiet of a rulebook doing its job. In a sport obsessed with precision, it was biblical irony, to lose not to failure of form, but to ink. By 2025, DeVincenzo's heartbreak is required reading in golf manuals. The USGA's digital scoring protocols, the double check, the verification step, all trace back to that day. On social media, his tragic phrase trends every April as both meme and memorial. Because at Augusta, even paperwork can kill dreams. The course doesn't care how you lose, only that you remember. If DeVincenzo's loss was bureaucratic tragedy, the next one was pure slow-motion torment, the kind that unfolds 1 bogey at a time. Ed Sneed's collapse. He was 3 holes away from immortality, 3 calm, routine holes. Then Augusta, in its quiet, merciless way, reminded Ed Sneed that no lead is safe until the last putt falls. It was April 15, 1979. The Georgia sun sat low and bright, the galleries subdued, as if holding their collective breath. Sneed led by 3 strokes when he stepped onto the 16th tee. A comfortable par 3, safe water, a simple swing, then splash, bogey. The silence after was almost polite, but the energy shifted. On 17, another bogey. The fortress cracked again. Then came 18, a putt for par that looked true, rolled pure, and died just right of the cup. Sneed's knees buckled, his eyes hollow. He tapped in for bogey, finishing tied with Tom Watson and a grinning Fuzzy Zoeller. The playoff wasn't fair, not to a man who had already lost before it began. Zoeller birdied, the crowd cheered half-heartedly, and Augusta crowned its first playoff debutante. Sneed, meanwhile, became the face of collapse. Not the dramatic Spieth kind or the tragic Norman implosion, but the slow, suffocating fade of a man overtaken by exhaustion. His voice years later carried no bitterness, only weary truth. I ran out of gas. By 2025, that phrase has become golf psychology canon. Sneed fatigue, the experts call it, the physical and emotional burnout that strikes just before glory. His interviews, revisited in recent Masters retrospectives, reveal he'd barely eaten that day, dehydrated and dizzy by the 17th. Science later confirmed his blood pressure had plummeted. His body simply quit before his mind realized. Modern players now hydrate religiously and measure glucose mid-round, all thanks to Sneed's unraveling. His fall changed preparation forever. Ed Sneed didn't choke. He melted. Slowly, painfully, beautifully, like wax under Augusta's cruel, perfect spotlight. And speaking of torment, sometimes Augusta skips subtlety and goes straight for full-blown chaos. Tom Weiskopf's quintuple disaster. No one forgets the 12th hole at Augusta, that postcard of paradise that doubles as a trapdoor to humiliation. And in 1980, Tom Weiskopf fell straight through it. The 12th, Golden Bell, had seduced golfers for decades. Shimmering water, whispering wind, a green framed by azaleas too pretty to be trusted. Weiskopf, elegant and measured, approached it with calm authority. But Augusta has a wicked sense of humor. The wind shifted. His 8-iron, normally pure, ballooned, then dropped short into Rays Creek. A mistake, sure, recoverable.
I'm standing on the 16th tee. I've got a one-stroke lead. And Jack is down there, 45 feet from the hole, 50 feet, whatever it is, and he makes this putt, and I said, my God, he's done it to me again, you know. So what happened there is I broke my concentration, and I would let things, interact a lot of times. I had these demons, I guess, going on. Maybe I was looking for excuses at times, too. And I got up there, Peter, and I knew it was a 6-iron.
Then he did it again, and again, and again. 5 times in total, the water swallowed his ball like it had a personal vendetta. By the time he finally reached the green, drenched in disbelief, he'd taken 13 strokes. 13. On a 155-yard hole. The crowd didn't cheer. They pitied. The commentators didn't speak. They sighed. It wasn't sport anymore. It was performance art in suffering. Weiskopf finished the round with a resigned grace, but something inside him had cracked. The perfectionist who'd built a career on rhythm and poise now looked like a man haunted. His words after? Simple, poetic, fatalistic. I just couldn't believe what was happening. In 2025, that hole still haunts golf academia. MIT wine simulations reconstructed the sequence, concluding it was bad luck multiplied by bad judgment, the perfect storm of indecision and invisible gusts. In his 2024 memoir, Augusta's Hex, Weiskopf called it, "The moment I realized golf isn't a game, it's an exorcism." Since then, no top player has matched his 13 on the 12th. And yet, the ghost of that round lingers every April. When the azaleas bloom and the wind shifts over Rays Creek, patrons swear they can still hear it. 5 splashes, one after another, echoing through Augusta's cruelest corner. But before Augusta was home to shattered pros and cursed holes, it tested its first golden child, a young amateur who learned the hard way that the Masters eats its young. Ken Venturi's final round collapse. He was 20, charming, ruthless with a driver. Augusta's first amateur prodigy in decades, until the course reminded him that youth and nerve rarely coexist for long. April 8, 1956. Ken Venturi stood on the first tee of the Masters final round, leading by 4 shots. The galleries adored him, the golden Californian kid with movie star poise and a swing smoother than silk. A victory would have rewritten history, the first amateur to win the Masters. But Augusta, ever the cruel narrator, had other plans.
Ken Venturi, the amateur, tees off at Augusta, 4 strokes up on his nearest rival, Nicklaus, defending champ in the Masters tournament. No amateur has ever won. 8 strokes behind Venturi going into the final round is Jack Burke, Jr., personable veteran of the pro circuit. The gallery is rooting for the young San Francisco amateur, but gives the defending champ a hand when Carey sinks one. But the big story is Venturi's collapse, and Burke's rally, climaxed by this terrific shot out of the trap on the final hole.
The Georgia heat was merciless that day, climbing past 90 degrees. The greens shimmered, the air hung heavy, and Venturi's confidence began to melt. Bogey at 10, another at 11. The rhythm that carried him for 3 days began to unravel. His hands shook, his mind spun. What had been a victory march turned into a survival test. By the time he reached the 18th, his eyes were hollow, his shirt soaked, and his youth gone. He signed for an 80, a collapse so stark that the usually polite Augusta crowd went silent. Jackie Burke Jr., calm and unassuming, quietly shot a 71 to take the title. Venturi's dream evaporated in real time. Later, he admitted the truth that his scorecard only hinted at. He'd been so dehydrated, he could barely see straight. "Augusta ate my soul," he confessed years later, a line that became shorthand for the cost of chasing perfection. By 2025, the Venturi collapse has been canonized as golf's lost innocence. His autobiography, The Venturi Effect, reissued this year, reveals the grim details, the dizziness, the delirium, the quiet despair of realizing that talent alone doesn't survive Augusta. He didn't just lose a tournament that day, he lost the illusion that promise protects. Because at Augusta, prodigies aren't crowned, they're tested, scorched, and sometimes devoured. From Nicklaus's golden roar to Spieth's watery collapse, from Norman's slow-motion tragedy to Weiskopf's comic despair, the Masters isn't just golf's grandest stage, it's its cruelest theater. Every swing, every scorecard, every gust of wind carries history's breath. And somewhere under those azaleas lie the ghosts of all who dared to dream and failed spectacularly. Because at Augusta, greatness is never guaranteed, but drama, always. Like, subscribe, and remember. In this garden of perfection, shock is tradition.